happy, be grateful for all the things in your life. Welcome to Maed 212 Virtual Discussion, Design Instructional Activities. And this is Eddie S. Mabali, your presenter for today. Our objectives is at the end of the lesson, the students able to first identify the tips, principles, or other consideration important for making the activities they design as effective as possible. Second, apply the designed instructional activities in the daily lessons. Third, differentiate the audio and video production for instructional design professionals. Designing instructional activities. Designing instructional have developed a large number of practical techniques for designing specific kinds of learning activities. The chapters in this section focus on tips, principles, or other considerations important for making the activities they design as effective as possible. Designing instructional activities has many subtopics. We have designing technology-enhanced learning experiences, designing instructional text, audio and video production of instructional design professionals, using visual and graphic elements while designing instructional activities, simulation and games, designing informal learning environment, the design of holistic learning environment, and measuring student learning. In this topic, I will discuss the first three: designing technology-enhanced learning experiences, designing instructional text, and audio and video production of instructional design professionals. Designing technology-enhanced learning experiences. This field of instructional learning design has at times been conflicted about the role of technology in helping students learn. See the classic debate between Richard Clark and Hubert Kuzma and the media debate of the early 1990s, Clark 1994, Kuzma 1994. While this debate effectively moved at the field away from considering digital technologies as the primary variable affecting student learning, these technologies still play an important role on how we learn about design for adequate learners. What is an instructional technology? Instructional technology, the field of learning and instructional design, considers technology to be any tool that extends human capability or assists us in achieving desired learning outcome. In this definition, the technology or tool does not need to be digital. Experts in the field of educational technology often adopt the terms hard and soft technologies. In this dichotomy, hard technologies refer to machine-based or signal technology, digital technologies such as computer or a wave-enabled app, while soft technologies are human-driven processes, methods, and theories that similarly extend or improve our abilities to teach or learn. As example, in the second edition of the Handbook of Educational Communication Technology of June 2004, there was a section for chapters on hard technologies such as television, virtual reality, and internet-based learning, and a separate section for soft technologies such as programs, instructions, and game-based learning. How can instructional technologies influence learning? As mentioned above, technologies are tools that extend human capability, including learning. In the past, educators and instructional designers viewed technologies as primarily hard technologies, a medium to learn from. This view was associated with the teacher-centered instruction or transmission model of education and associated theories. The focus was typically on content transmission, practice of basic skills through repetition, reinforcement of desired behaviors, and evaluation of how accurate the learners could respond to pre-programmed questions. The technology may have allowed for some interactions with peers and instructors, but mostly the learner individually interacted with the content in isolation. Technology as mindful supports learners as they interpret, organize their knowledge, engage in critical thinking about the content, and actively participate in knowledge constructions. Example of such tools are semantic and conceptual maps, microworlds and simulations, and even emerging technologies such as robotics. Building on this idea of mind tools and reflecting a general trend in education toward a learner-centered paradigm, the instructional technology field began using technology to mediate meaningful learning experiences and to focus on supporting the learners and the process of learning. Technologies can simulate authentic human activity, learning and especially learning of complex professional when it is contextualized and situated in real-life experiences and authentic activity. Certain approaches use a varied technology tools to mimic real-world situations to support learning. For example, computer simulations and problem-based learning use technology to create conditions that are similar to real life and encourage the learners to gain new knowledge and skills through repeated practice and solving authentic problems. Inquiry-based learning encourage the learner to actively explore the material, ask questions, and discuss possible solutions, modeling the real-life process of examining issues and systematically looking for answers. Technologies can enhance interactions. Digital technology has tremendous potential to enable interactions and connections between people, whereas individuals were previously limited by space and time constraints. They can now interact through near ubiquitous access and connection to each other. We have a social presence, the feeling of being connected and present with each other, for example, through video or text discussions designed for students and instructors to learn about each other. Cognitive presence, the feeling of being intellectually present in the community, growing and developing meaning through interaction. For example, through online questions and answers sessions or group collaboration via shared documents. And teaching presence, the feeling of being supported by teachers, designing and facilitating the interactions and content, for example, through well-designed online curriculum and opportunities for feedback. How should we incorporate technology in our life? Technologies have a powerful potential to engage and transform the learning process in ways that may be difficult and possible without these tools. Entire handbook have been written about the topic of how effectively design learning through the support of technologies. First principle, align technology with pedagogy. The quality and accessibility of technology-mediated learning experiences is an issue of both technology and pedagogy. Whether we design a single learning experience, a course, or a full program, strategic orchestrations of desired results, assessments, and instructional methods with intentional use of technology are essential. Second principle, identify what students will do with the technology. In the discipline of instructions, educational technology research, different models for describing how teachers can integrate technology into their teaching. Most of these models focus on how teachers utilize technology. For example, the TPAC model, which focuses on teacher technological pedagogical content knowledge, and the SAMR model, which focuses on how teachers can use technological strategies to establish, augment, modify, or redefine their current pedagogical practices. The RAT model, which similarly categorizes technology decisions according to whether the technology replaces, amplifies, or transforms the teacher's existing teaching AI model, which depicted 7 levels of technology used by teachers in the classroom. The second topic is designing instructional text. The term instructional text has been widely used to describe a wide range of textual objects, from whole text, such as textbooks, manuals, guides, and even narrative reading scheme text, to part of a text. Historically, much of the research on instructional text has been in relation to the linguistic constructions of text of Tarasuk et al. 1915 and document design of Nisanchok 1992. In this chapter, we're going to narrow the focus substantially. This is not a chapter on how to write a didactic text. In other words, how to convey subject-specific information in print text or online. Instead, this chapter will focus on the often overlooked instructional text that support learning, drawing on concepts from fields such as applied linguistics, graphic and multimedia design, and university studies. We're going to focus our attention on the kind of textual features that work alongside subject-specific content to direct learners' attention and action instructional text. What does instructional text do? Instructional text is commonly found hiding inside other text. In classroom conversation, in textbooks and learning guides, in educator-produced materials such as worksheets or assignments, brief, and on websites and course sites. We often do not really notice instructional text unless it is badly written and disrupts the flow of the learning. Instructional text can play a number of roles in face-to-face, print, and online learning context, including contributing to creating a learning environment, outlining the structure of learning experience, directing learners' attention to specific areas, directing learners' actions, and creating links between different parts of learning experience. Instructional text is lastly the classroom, print, and online. While most educators pay carefully attention to instructional text that conveys subject-specific content, less attention is given to instructional text that supports the learning of content. In face-to-face cases, instructional text often happens in direct response to learners' action. Moving into an online or multimodal context poses some new challenges and affordances for constructing instructional text. Poorly constructed instructional text in online and multimedia forms can be very confusing for learners, but well-constructed instructional text can also open the door to a wonderful range of visual and verbal opportunity. If you are an instructional designer, you need to think intentionally about different spaces where instruction is needed. Principles for constructing instructional text. First, simplify, reduce extraneous load. Simplified text and producing easy-to-read text or plain language text is another way of thinking about reducing extraneous load to produce text that align with readers' ability level. Extraneous load or processing refers to any work that a learner might need to do that does not contribute to the learning goal or outcome. Principle 2. Personalize, connect through voice and tone. Research suggests that belonging achieved in part through affective connection is a key predictor of learner success. Into face-to-face classroom settings, contexts, successful educators instinctively use body language and tone of voice to create connection through conveying emotion. This is particularly true for minority learners in online learning spaces. Instructional text, print, online text, or multimodal text often suffers from an absence of emotional connection between the writer and the reader. failing to build belongingness and support of learning. Instructional text is, however, an opportunity to connect with learners on levels beyond the purely cognitive enhancing learning through building connections, belongingness, and trust. Principle 3. Communicate regularly. The temptation with instructional text is sometimes to write or present long and complex spreads of instructions at the outset of a process. We would encourage you, however, to communicate regularly with learners and to offer instructional text in brief, just-in-time chunks. This is for a number of reasons. Instructional text is most likely to make sense to learners when it is directly related to what a learner needs to do immediately. Example of a structure of an outlined online course with typical instruction text. We have the online course outline, Module 1, Module 2, up to Module 10. Course level introductory instructional text. Module 1, email instruction text. It will be sent through email. Module 1, welcome to Module 1 when you are opening the email for the introductory instructional text. And there is another instructional text, assignment 1, learning activity instructional text. And in a summary, next week in Module 2, concluding and linking instructional text. Introductory, learning, and concluding instructional text. Instructional text is often needed at the beginning of a unit or module in a course or textbooks. In this location, instructional text will usually outline the shape of the text learning experience ahead of the learner by articulating learning outcomes and identifying key aspects of the learning activities. It might alert the learner to activities such as live sessions, expected time on task, or equipment required for the tweaking. Example showing introductory instructional text. While the text above performs introductory functions, similar text can perform linking functions between sections of text or activities and conclude learning chunks. Learning activity instructional text. If you research older articles, you will often come across instructional text articles that refer to writing the instructions of the assignment or manual for print. Each assignment or assessment created for learners contains instructions. Sometimes the instructions is minimal if it is an open-ended question, or more intensive if it is step-by tutorial. Depending on the level of the learners, the level of instructions used for assessment may differ. Showing the example instructional text in learning activity. There is an email. Okay. In online settings, course announcement or emails are often used by the instructor to communicate with learners on a regular basis, given the instruction. This type of instructions typically includes, but it is not limited to, reminders, deadlines, changes in course information, and feedback on assessment. While other forms of instruction may be pre-planned, emails are done with a short turnaround time and therefore contextual to what is currently happening in the class. Visual design of instructional text. While the content of the instructional text is central to its purpose of guiding the learner, there are many other factors that contribute to its success. An example is focusing on accessibility in the instruction text visual design. When designing instructional text, we need to think about how it caters to the learner's experience from a visual perspective, which affects the learner's ability to find information of Lonsdale of 2016. These visual guidelines draw on the work of Hartley of 1981, Universal Design for Learning and the Field of User Experiences, to name a few. Regardless, of a physical or digital medium. These guidelines are important considerations for the design of the instructional text. Visual design of instructional text. We have headings, numbering, bullets, spacing, fonts, and font size. Headings improve the learner's ability to scan and navigate the content. At any point, a learner should know where they came from, where they are, and where they are going. Heading signals the topic and in many cases give you an idea of whether the information under the headings will be relevant. Before lesson planning, it is a good idea to set down and plan the structure including the headings and subheadings for the one unit of lesson. Numbering. Numbering aids in sequencing and organizing information. Furthermore, it is particularly valuable for referencing purpose. Where possible, numbering is encouraged as it provides opportunities to reference by number in announcements, emails, assignments, and other parts of the course. Bullets. Break up large chunks of text into smaller numbered or full bulleted lists. For example, if there are 5 key points for a topic, it might be a good idea to outline this using bulleted lists. Spacing. Designers talk about white space, which is the space around text and image like in the textbooks. Dolomsky and the Hagen of 2013 praise it really well. Too much space and visuals and type get lost or don't talk to each other. Not enough space and they start to fight with each other. White space is necessary and appropriate when placing text and images, and it contributes to the readability of the instructions. Fonts. Fonts choice can impact the readability of the text. Also for common highly readable fonts like Arial, Tahoma, Cordana, or other, and avoid decorative fonts that are difficult to read. Some font families are considered more readable than others, with division among those who prefer sans serif or sans serif fonts. Next is the font size. Depending on the placement of the instructional text, it's important to consider the font size. If important instructions are too small and illegible, they might be overlooked by the reader. The last topic of this report is audio and video production for instructional design professionals. Practicing instructional design professionals use digital audio, video, and learning materials for a variety of reasons, including content presentation, feedback, and assessment. Some audio and video materials used for purposes like feedback and assessment may have a narrow audience and may not require high production value. The editing needed to make audio and video materials professional and polished. For those uses, use simply record and share. Depending on the resources of the project, instructional designers may create these materials themselves or work with media production professionals. Because modern smartphones have access to basic media production tools, it is possible for anybody to capture and edit audio and video. Lossless and lossy media. Audio and video files are commonly referred to as media files. There will be other media files that work with us as instructional design professionals, but these are the foundations of most media production projects. Because so much of the work we do is shared digitally on the internet, working with any type of media is a compromise between the highest quality and the smallest file size, which is why you need to learn how to compress and compress media files. We sometimes refer to uncompressed media as lossless. Compressed media is lossless. A lossless file is compressed and it is the highest digital quality. Lossy media has lost some of the original quality. This means that it has been exported to a file size and type that can be used and shared easily. Audio. The most common lossless audio file we will work with is a WAV file or WAV file. It is a waveform audio format. There are others, but WAV files are the most commonly used as C2N with the link provided. quality is referred to as video resolution and measured by pixel dimensions. Example of the fix for the common types of video resolutions from lowest quality to highest quality. We have the standard definition, the SD, with the pixel dimensions of 720 by 480, followed by the high definition or the HD, pixel dimensions of 1280 by 720, full high definition or the full HD, 1920 by 1080, and ultra high definition or the 4K ultra HD or 4K 3840 by 2160. How to compromise between quality and file size. This will depend on several factors such as how will you deliver the materials, the content of the materials, and where you will be using the materials. For example, if you were recording music and wanted to distribute it on a compact disc, you would want to export your audio file in a WAV format. You would want the highest quality so that the nuisance of the music could be enjoyed by the listener. If you are recording a podcast, lecture, or some other type of voice file, and your plan is to distribute that through a learning management system or some other internet-based option, an MP3 file is preferred. An MP3 file has levels of audio quality or fidelity, which are measured by the bit rate. When exporting video, it is also depends on what you plan to do with the video. If you are broadcasting the video through a television network or streaming service, you would like to want to export in 4K or Full HD. If you are distributing your video through an online streaming service such as YouTube or Vimeo, you could likely use a lower resolution HD file. Your choice of resolution will depend on the content of the video. Recording and editing digital audio. Before you can compress your audio as an MP3 file, you must capture or record the audio. On the face of it, recording audio is relatively straightforward, assuming you have a recorder. Press the record button, dock, press the stop button, and export it as an MP3 file. Recording high-quality audio is more difficult. Where you record is an issue to consider. Field recordings, such as interviews in offices, classrooms, or outside areas, are different from recording in a single stationary place like a studio. Audio software. To create a professional sounding recording, you need multi-track software to edit audio. A finished audio file is a number of tracks or layers of audio edited together for a quality and clarity. To create a professional sounding recording, you need multi-track software to edit your audio. Each track is a type of audio. One track might be your voice, another track your background music. Audio software allows you to mix your audio. Mixing audio means that you adjust levels of each track to make your voice loud enough and your background music soft enough to blend well together. Multiple audio tracks. So this is the sound waves of the audio. The first two lines at the top is the voice track, which is the voice recorded audio, and the other two parts at the bottom is the soundtracks, which is the background music. There are many professional options available, but Audacity is a free open source tool that we recommend. It's available for both Mac and PC computers. Below are the set of tutorials that will help you started with Audacity and audio editing. And that would be all. Thank you for listening.
Good day, classmates and Dr. Flores. I am Geraldine Bouquet, your presenter for the continuation of the topic Designing Instructional Activities. In this discussion, we will focus on the practical techniques for designing specific kinds of learning activities. The first one is using visual and graphic elements while designing instructional activities. What exactly is a picture and what purpose does it serve? Knowlton proposed that visuals or pictures could be categorized according to their purpose or function within instruction. It could be realistic, logical, or analogical. Realistic pictures look like the objects they refer to in the real world outside of the instruction. If the intent is to communicate a concrete example of the concept being presented, then a realistic picture is a good option for doing so. Logical pictures, on the other hand, provide a visual depiction of the structure of a concept being presented. If the purpose is to communicate an understanding of the organization of territories within a country or how electricity flows through a circuit, then a logical picture such as a map or diagram would be effective. Finally, an analogical picture depicts relationships among complex concepts through the use of concrete visual elements that are more familiar to the person. When there is a need to compare a particular phenomenon to something a learner is more likely to encounter in everyday life, then an analogical picture is a helpful option for communicating that information. So how can we use visual or graphic elements to increase the effectiveness of instruction? Peake suggested that the effectiveness of pictures within instruction is dependent upon the manner in which they cause the learner to process the information contained within the visual elements provided. It is also a product of both the characteristics of the learners themselves and the graphic materials used within the design. For example, visual elements can be a powerful means of showing spatial relationships or positioning of objects that are being presented within the instruction. These types of visuals can be placed before a section of text, when learners are expected to draw upon prior knowledge of the information. They may also be placed in line with the text when learners are unfamiliar with the spatial relationships and will benefit from a picture that shows relative positioning of the objects being discussed. Pictures may also serve to illustrate abstract concepts that are presented textually within the instruction. Learners can use these visual elements to supplement their comprehension of the material through these representations or confirm their understanding of the text by reviewing the graphics and pictures provided. This is also a potential to motivate learners to pay particular attention to a specific material and process information from the text more deeply. A learner may prefer to clarify or reinforce their understanding of textual information through visual elements, which can in turn help with the encoding and subsequent retrieval of that information at a later time. So there are 5 types of visual elements with its functions. These are representational, organizational, interpretational, transformational, and decorative. One of the most common types of pictures used in instruction is representational, which illustrates the textual information being presented for the purpose of reinforcement, just like the picture shown here in Figure 1, which is a representational picture illustrating the components of an atom. When the purpose of using a picture is to present a concrete visual representation of information contained in the instruction, a representational picture is often the way to go. Another type of visual element is organizational, which shows relationships between different parts presented in the text, just like the picture in Figure 2, which shows an organizational picture illustrating the steps of performing CPR. These can serve the purpose of illustrating a series of steps in a procedure or provide a large set of data through graphics such as diagrams or charts. An interpretational picture is a third type of visual element that is often used when the intent is to clarify complex information provided within a text. Just like a picture here shown in Figure 3 that shows an interpretational picture presenting the structures in an animal cell as buildings in a city. These visual analogies can be used to ground more abstract concepts in visual elements that are easier for the learner to comprehend. Yet another type of graphic element that is somewhat infrequently used is the transformational picture, which provides a mnemonic that facilitates retrieval of information from memory at a later time. Just like the picture shown here in Figure 4, a transformational picture using mnemonics for the actions of neurotransmitters. If the intent of the visual element is to help the learner memorize information through the association of related picture, then the creation of a transformational picture may be worth the time and effort to design. Finally, the decorative picture is used within instruction but has no empirical support for its impact on learning. It serves to break up textual information or provide eye candy for the learner. Their use is not directly tied to improved learning outcomes and thus generally discouraged. So here are some strategies for structuring visual or graphic elements. The first one, integrate textual and graphic information into one element in order to eliminate the effect of splitting the learner's attention. Second, eliminate multiple standalone sources of textual and graphic information in order to reduce the mental effort needed to deal with redundant information. Your audience will listen to you or read the content, but not do both. Third, present concepts before adding context by giving the learner increasingly realistic visual elements during the instruction. Fourth, gradually present information to learners through visual and graphic elements. Fifth, strategies to reduce cognitive load tend to have a reverse effect on learners with greater levels of expertise, and thus needs to be adjusted accordingly. Finding and creating visual and graphic elements. There are a number of resources available to make the process manageable. If you would like to find visual elements that have already been created by someone else, a number of sites online have collections of images that can be used without having to pay for their use. A few of these sites include Creative Commons Image Search, Unsplash, Pixabay, Stocksnap.io, and Pexels. Now let's move to simulation and games. Simulations present the learner with real-world scenarios and allow them to explore the scenario in a safe environment. Pattern for simulations. Simulation Watch asks learners to watch a procedure or skill. One of the more common forms these simulations can take is the software simulation. A software simulation is essentially showing someone how to do some action on a computer by recording your screen. Simulation Try allows students to try a skill or procedure themselves. This allows the learner to engage with the content and practice it in a safe environment. There are various applications that can be used for creating a try simulation. One example is the tool Captivate. Simulation Evaluate. Evaluate simulations help both you and the learner judge if they are able to perform a task they have just learned. The most helpful evaluation simulations are ones that allow the user to fail and learn from their mistakes. Simulation Play allows students to play with ideas or concepts associated with the instructional environment. Playing helps learners work with the knowledge they have gained in different engaging ways. The goal is to help them take what they learn and apply it in novel ways so they are able to master it better. Parts of a game. Theme. A theme is a unifying core to your game that helps express its purpose and bring a sense of harmony between that purpose and the tone, visuals, audio, video, text, and other elements you create. Figure 1 shows the theme or initial logo of a game. Progression is how learners move from the beginning to the end of your game and how they navigate through the steps in between. Progression is a principle you can use in different ways. Figure 2 shows an example of a progression. The tool to manage progression is the game board. The last part of a game is the challenge. Challenges are how you present instructional content and allow learners to interact with that content. These challenges can come in many different forms with varying levels of challenge between the tasks. One way to challenge the learner is through a standard question. Figure 4 shows an example of a standard question. If the learner gets the question correct, they will see a correct feedback. Figure 5 shows feedback on incorrect answer. If the learner gets answer incorrect, they will see some kind of visual indication and perhaps some feedback. Figure 6 shows feedback on correct answer. If the learner gets the question correct, they will see correct feedback. To make it even more challenging, points could be taken away when the learner does not answer correctly. You could also add a timer or other sense of urgency for students to complete the game. The last topic that I will discuss is about designing informal learning environments. What is formal and informal learning? Formal learning is a type of learning program in which the goals and objectives are defined by the training department, instructional designer, and/or instructor. Informal learning, on the other hand, is the pursuit of any knowledge, skill, or understanding that occurs outside a formal or non-formal learning environment, such as a classroom, training facility, or e-learning course. Evaluating learning environments in terms of settings and curricula. This shows that schools have traditionally been highly formal on both the setting and the curricula. But recent growth of online or virtual schools may still be formal and highly structured in terms of the curricula, while the setting may be in someone's own home and on their own time schedule. Similarly, workplaces are using more informal newsletters, podcasts, wikis, or informal professional development rather than formal in-person training meetings or assigned computer-based training. Principles for designing informal learning. Principle 1. Provide learners a choice in their learning. Instructional designers should deeply consider how learners are going to interact with content. For teachers and professors developing a syllabus, allowing the learner a choice in their learning experience can have a direct link to intrinsic motivation. Principle 2. Design for collaboration, idea sharing, and peer interaction. When more specific knowledge is needed by an individual, a personalized informal experience in the form of coaching or mentoring will allow a novice to learn directly from an expert. A learning experience that centers on group work and peer interaction will invite informal learning to take place as individuals pose questions to and receive answers from the teammates and colleagues. Principle 3. Leverage the benefits of constructionism and project-based learning. Learners typically become active participants in the experience and learn organically as they work through a challenge. Designers working to implement informal learning principles can include opportunities for exploration and creation. Principle 4. Leverage the benefits of gamification and playful competition. Playful competition and gaming are proven mechanisms for increasing learner engagement. Gamification is a relatively recent term that describes using game thinking and game mechanisms in non-game contexts to engage users. And these are my references. Special thanks to all the people who made and released this awesome resource for free. That's all for my topic. Thank you so much for listening.
Have a pleasant day to all. I am Elgen B. Estrella. I am tasked to discuss the holistic design of learning environment and measuring student learning. The design of holistic learning environments. One of the factors that makes a design compelling is when it has a sense of harmony and completeness. When we experience the design, it does not feel like a collection of individual parts that just happen to be together. Instead, they fit together. In fact, we likely do not stop to consider the discrete components making up the design at all. But if we do notice the individual parts, we typically can sense how each belongs. There is a sense of balance and resonance that emerge from the precise configuration we experience. We see the design as a whole, meant to be experienced as a whole. And in the best cases, the sense of completeness and balance somehow extends into us. We feel more complete and more in balance because we have encountered something as complete and in balance as this design. This figure presents a diagram from the design way that highlights the major conditions of holistic design. The diagram illustrates how we can design objects or services in a way that transcends the individual parts from which they are assembled to create something holistic. What is a holistic design? Holistic design takes into account the person, the device, the moment, the ethnographic environment, the physical space, as well as human behavior and psychology. Example, thinking, attitudes, emotions, motivations, abilities, triggers, and etc. and aims to deliver an optimal experience. One of the holistic design of learning environments is the connections. Connection is a relationship in which a person, thing, or idea is linked or associated with something else. And also, holistic design will choose connections that are both appropriate for the material being used as well as the type of connection that is desired. First, consider the effects of the connections between individual elements in your design. There is an analogy here to connections between physical objects. When joining together two pieces of wood, we connect them with a nail or a screw. When joining together pieces of metal, we connect them with a weld. We can also consider more sophisticated methods of connecting when we include the idea of an intermediary fastener. Nails and screws are a direct connector between two pieces of wood, and the result is a rigid link. But we could connect our wood using an intermediary, a hinge. We screw the hinge into the adjacent pieces of wood, and the result is a connection between the wood that is more flexible. When building an object, then, we need to consider the materials you are working with, and this will help us decide what kinds of connections we can make. Then we consider what we want the connection between the elements to be, and this will help us further choose an appropriate link to achieve our objective. A holistic design will choose connections that are both appropriate for the material being used as well as the type of connection that is desired. Relationships. The second condition of holistic design is the relationships between elements in a design. Relationships are similar to idea of connection, since every relationship connects different entities in some way. So everything just described about connections apply to relationships as well. But relationship implies more than the fact that elements are connected. The idea of relationship implies there is a structure to the connection, one that suggests an effect that transcends what the individual elements provide on their own. The last factor to consider is unity, or the overall effect the connections and relationships have in a complete design. In considering unity, we should first recognize that there will always be connections and relationships between design elements. My second topic is measuring student learning. Measuring student learning is critical in teaching and learning process and can serve many purposes. Instructors can use assessment results to plan future instruction, adapt current instruction, communicate levels of understanding to students, and examine the overall effectiveness of instruction and course design. The measurement of student learning can take place before, during, or after instruction. Before lessons are even developed, instructors need to know what students already know and can do related to the content. There is no point in wasting time teaching some students already know, or in starting at a level that is so advanced, students don't have the prerequisite knowledge necessary to be successful. To that end, the learner analysis in instructional design could be considered a type of assessment. Giving a pre-assessment, also called a diagnostic assessment, can provide instructors with this valuable information. Measuring student learning during instruction, a formative assessment provides instructors with important information about how students are progressing towards the learning objectives while there is still time to adjust instruction. Measuring student learning. Number 1. Constructing high-quality assessments. 2. Assessment alignment. Assessment alignment includes learning taxonomies and learning objectives, assessment alignment tables, and table of specifications. 3. Assessment formats. This includes multiple choice, essay items, and best practices guidelines in developing performance-based assessments. 4th is the rubrics. Constructing high-quality assessments. High-quality assessments are those that lead to valid, reliable, and fair assessment results. Validity refers to the trustworthiness of the assessment results. Fairness is the degree to which an assessment provides all learners an equal opportunity to learn and demonstrate achievement, while some of validity and reliability can be measured through statistical analysis. It is uncommon that such complex measurement procedures are used for typical assessments. Attending to best practices in assessment alignment and test item and assessment construction helps instructional designers increase the validity, reliability, and fairness of assessment instruments. Second is the assessment alignment. One of the most important concepts in assessment is alignment. It is critical that assessments and assessment items are aligned with goals and objectives. It is impossible to determine the extent to which learners have met course or workshop goals and objectives if their knowledge and skills have not been assessed. Assessment alignment tables and test blueprints are two tools instructional designers can use to align assessments and assessment items, which is the learning objectives. Under to the assessment alignment is the learning taxonomies and learning objectives. Learning taxonomies assess instructional designers in constructing both objectives and assessment items. Bloom's revised taxonomy and Webb's depth of knowledge are two frameworks commonly used by educators to categorize the academic rigor of an assessment as a whole or individual assessment items. To increase the content validity of an assessment, the complexity of the individual test questions should align with the level of knowledge or skill specified in the learning goal. If a learning objective states that a student compares and contrasts information, it is not appropriate for test items to simply ask students to recall information. Likewise, if the learning goal states that students will be able to synthesize information, a paper and pencil test will likely not be a sufficient measure of that skill. Assessment Alignment Table. Regardless of the assessment method, instructional designers can ensure that learning goals, objectives, and assessment align by creating an alignment table. In the example, course goals, student learning outcomes, and assessments are aligned in a table. This example is from a college-level course on teaching with technology for pre-service teachers. This table indicates there is at least one learning objective aligned with each course goal and at least one assessment method aligned with each objective. If you find that a particular learning objective isn't being assessed, you can go back and develop an assessment to measure learners' progress. Next is the table of specifications. In addition to creating an alignment table for all assessments in the entire course, instructional designers can also create a table of specifications or test blueprint to align individual test items to course objectives. A table of specifications aligns the learning objective, all items on a single test, and the level of knowledge being assessed. This is evidence of content validity. This also helps the instructional designer see if the test includes items related to all the learning goals, and if the assessment items are written to elicit knowledge at the appropriate level of complexity. If you find that you have too many questions about one topic or not enough about another, or that you are only asking lower level questions when the learning objective is focused on higher order thinking skills, the test can be edited accordingly. The figure shows a test blueprint for a 12-item test about assessment. Each number represents the question number on the test. Assessment formats. Common assessment formats include multiple choice and essay questions, observation, oral questioning, and performance-based assessments. This focuses on paper and pencil tests and performance assessment. These guidelines help increase the validity, reliability, and fairness of assessments. This includes multiple choice, essay items, performance-based assessment. Number 4 is the rubrics. Reliability is related to scoring consistency. One way to help ensure scoring consistency is to use rubrics for grading subjective assessment items, including essay questions and performance assessments. Rubrics focus the attention of a grader on what is most important about the assignment. Rubrics include topics or elements and descriptions of levels of performance. This provides a roadmap for how to assess an assignment that is more subjective than a multiple choice of question. Thank you.
My greetings to our professor, Dr. Grace Flores, ma'am, and to my fellow classmates. Once again, good morning and have a nice day. Now, for the next group of reporter, our topic is all about developing instructional media in 4A's approach. We have here the reporter, yours truly, Charlotte A. Esidielio. And next, we have Ma'am Araceli Rasunabe And our last reporter is Sir Joffy Cabrera. My topic is all about instructional media and 4A's approach. The objective of my topic is first, define instructional media related to teaching learning process. Next, identify the types, benefits, and role of instructional media. Next, appreciate the importance of instructional media. And last, define 4A's. What do you think on when I say instructional media? We have here instructional media. Media is general, is human, material, or event that constructs conditions and cause students to gain knowledge, skills, or attitude. Gerlach and Ellie, 1971. Another definition, we have media is component that students' environment to stimulate instructional. Gagne, 1985. Next, we have media is physical tool to deliver teaching material. Reiser and Gagne, 1988. Something that consists of information or knowledge to do an instructional process. Heinrich at all 2008. Instructional media, it is a form of communication both printed and audiovisual with all the equipment used in teaching and learning process. We have here types of instructional media. What are the types of instructional media? First, we have projected media. Projected media is an instructional materials that require projection and electricity in their using process. Example, slides, home strips, overhead projector. The uses of it is to allow the students to view the same materials at the same time. It is also offer students others' perspective. Next, we have the non-projected media. Non-projected media is an instructional materials that do not require the processes of projection before its operation can take place. Example, photograph, diagram, displays, flashcards, and the use of it is to illustrate concepts that enhance direct instruction. Next, we have audio media. Audio media examples, cassettes and compact discs. The use of it is to allow students to hear other languages and dialects. It allows auditory learners to review the lesson. And it encourages creativity through music. Next, we have motion media. Motion media, example of this are the videos, computer-mediated instruction, and television. And the use of it is to offer supplemental instruction. It experiences concept in a manner that is not available in real life. For example, Magic School Bus, especially in the elementary learners, superheroes, or whatever. Next, we have hypermedia. Hypermedia, these are the computer networks, the software, and the internet. The use of it is to offer resources beyond the library. It develops computer and word processing skills. It offers interactive learning. Last but not least, we have the gaming media. Example are the computer games. The use of it is to provide playful environment for learning. It motivates for the tedious and repetitive content. It uses problem-solving skills. Now let's go for the benefits of using instructional media. What are the benefits when we are using the instructional media? First, we have gain and hold the attention of learner. Next, it recall prerequisites. It present objectives to the learner. Next, we have support learning through examples and visual elaboration. Next, focus attention or highlight key points. Next, we have create impact. And next, facilitate the understanding of concepts. Now let's go to the role of instructional media in teaching learning process. What are the role of instructional media in teaching and learning process? First, we have here for helping learners to articulate and represent what they know. Next, for reflecting on what they have learned and how they come to know it. Next, for supporting learners' internal negotiation and meaning making. And last, we have for constructing personal representations of meaning for supporting mindful thinking. Now, let me give to you the brief explanation of 4A's. What are the 4A's? We have the activity, analysis, abstraction, and application. Activity. This will bring out what the learners already know and clarify what learners should learn further. This early stage, the students should already have retrospects of what they will be learning through the activity that will be presented. Next, the analysis. The teacher will ask further questions and act as a facilitator rather than mere lecturing and sharing facts and ideas. The student now gain a more comprehensive view of lesson, but at the same time draws closer to the main topic. For the abstraction, the teacher will focus entirely on the lesson being presented and ask more leading questions to guide the students to reinforce what they know and should know more. The students here starts to feel the importance of the lesson and see its necessity to his and her real life. Next, we have the application. The students here applied what they have learned through the different activities and tasks. And these are the references of my report. And once again, thank you.
Good day everyone, and also to our Maed 212 professor, Dr. Grace T. Flores. Good day ma'am. I am Araceli B. Rasunabi, your presenter for today's report. And my report is the continuation and probably the last topic about developing an instructional media in 4A's approach. And my topic is all about things to remember in developing instructional media in 4A's approach. So the objectives are identify the use of instructional media in 4A's approach, and then share the importance of instructional media in the teacher's day-to-day school activity. Okay, so again, as a sort of review, a 4A's lesson approach consists of 4 main parts, which are Number 1 is activity. Second is analysis. Third is abstraction. Number 4 is application. Okay. So again, 4A's technique is one of the instructional strategies that we can apply in the new normal, which allow us to connect the content that we are teaching to the life experiences of the learners. So my topic is all about the things to remember in developing instructional media in 4A's approach, in applying this instructional strategy in our class. So there are 4 things to remember, and number 1 is this format will best affect learning when we facilitate more rather than placing the lessons in their head. Since we teachers aim to keep our students at pace, but not to the point of dragging them to what we would like them to achieve. And with our present situation, the roles of teachers are vital to the growth of learners' educational development, be it in modular, virtual, or even online. And likewise, the cooperation between and among the K persons is also necessary in serving the best education to the learners, despite in this pandemic. Okay, the second thing to remember is do not forget to have localization or indigenization of your lesson if possible, because it helps teachers and learners to comprehend concepts by relating and presenting a lesson in the context of local environment, culture, and resources. We can also apply this in crafting the learning activity sheets or SLMs for our learners. Again, do not forget to localize our instructional materials that are available in our area if possible. Okay, so the third one is design your lessons that goes within and across other learning areas. So let us also take into consideration that it should also develop the literacy and the numerous skills of our learners. And then we can also design our 4A's lessons by integration as certain objectives across to other learning areas. Okay, so that's it. And the last but not the least is have a mastery of the lesson to be presented. Why? So when the teacher is prepared and has mastered the lessons in 4A's approach, it will surely surprise you with the good results or evaluation. Because why? Learners become more participative if teachers are well prepared and confident on what he or she presented to the students. So those are the things to remember in developing an instructional media in 4A's approach. So I have here a question. As an educator, how will I apply this approach in the new normal? So can you guess how? Since we are adapting the distance learning as one of our mode of delivery in teaching our students, number 1 is utilize the interactive platforms. Okay, very common. So for us to balance the pedagogy of instruction with the engagement of virtual video platforms like the Google Meet, Zoom, Google Classroom, Kahoot, YouTube, Facebook, Mentimeter, Quizlet, and others, which allow us to connect as we enter our class using these applications. So because this provide us more engaging and very effective online instruction to facilitate our learners' engagements. And we can also utilize the PowerPoint add-ons that embed activities or games per deck. And like Mentimeter and Kahoot, they are digital integrations that teachers can add to virtual or in-person lessons. Okay, number 2, facilitate discussions and collaborations. Okay, so finding pathways to engage students in group discussions to build collaboration and communication skill is critical since the COVID-19 pandemic, including lockdowns in persons, social interactions has also changed dramatically. So giving the students the space and opportunity to connect and collaborate will be necessary for their development. So if our classroom is fully virtual, so let us consider the breakout rooms on our virtual platform or a discussion forum where students can express and share their ideas for remote, hybrid, or in-person learning. So let us also remember to remain flexible and allow for all types of sharing and collaboration techniques based on the modality and comfort of our individual students. Another is make time for social-emotional learning because in this time of pandemic, this has proven to be a difficult time not just for our society, but also for the children who are still developing and trying to understand their changing circumstances. So therefore, we educators must create the environment and opportunities in which students' growth is possible. And to help our students process the shared experiences, we must make time for activities that promote social-emotional learning during this week or some other time. This will help students feel supported by their learning environment and build skills to cope, to heal, and thrive, an activity to promote social-emotional learning. Just like making weekly journal assignments, they are simple activity that builds writing skills that can serve as a way for teachers to check with their students' emotional state. Another thing is be available and flexible. Okay, so our students may react to distance learning or changes at school like wearing a mask, physical distancing, and the like, and be ready for behavioral changes. We should always remember that our students are going through immense developmental changes and feelings during these unexpected societal changes. Moreover, we teachers must take time to check in individually with each student to provide a safe environment for our students and to express their emotions and provide flexible deadlines as needed. And lastly, prioritize your own self-care. So as we all know that self-care can help you at the top of your game and ready to handle any challenges that come up during this difficult time. A positive healthy self-care strategy can include activities that address the physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual, social, and professional factors every day. So here are a few quick activities that can help to incorporate with your daily lives to find way to distress, like schedule breaks into your daily routine, 10 to 20 minutes a day to decompress from any items that may be causing stress. And practice positive talk and affirmations to develop compassion and empathy to yourself. And practice deep breathing and mindfulness. Then find and seek out social support and talk to other teachers and coworkers about your stress. And before I end this report, let me leave you a quote from John Holt. Learning is not the product of teaching. Learning is the product of the activity of the learners. These are my references. Once again, I am Araceli B. Rasonabe, your today's presenter. Thank you.